Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Folks, we're going to talk about Dave Wolverton's Courtship of Princess Leia novel. This was one of the first novels to come out after the Timothy Zahn trilogy. I think you had Truce of Bakura and then you had Courtship of Princess Leia. And these take place before the Thrawn trilogy. Basically, we already knew from Heir to the Empire that Han and Leia were married, but how did that marriage come about? Aha! So Dave Wolverton has to write it. Now, first off, the cover looks just great, right? Because there's Leia and a bride's dress, and it looks kind of very romantic. And I get it. At first, I was like, oh, this cover doesn't look like Star Wars. It looks like some cheap romance novel. Well, yeah, because it's about the love of Han and Leia. I get it. But in this book, Leia is trying to woo the Hapes cluster into joining the New Republic. The Hapes cluster is a conglomeration of very rich planets. They have a big armada of ships that the Rebellion could really, or New Republic, could really use. But they want Leia to make it official with a merger. She's going to marry their heir to the throne, Princess Soldier. And she's like, oh, okay. But she's really entertaining that because first off, the prince is kind of a nice guy, and he is. You want to hate him, but he's kind of a nice guy. And at the same time, I was like, well, I think so, because Han, remember from that short story earlier, Crossroads, she's like, well, Han and I have kind of drifted apart lately. Maybe I don't need a scoundrel in my life. Maybe I do need royalty. I need to I'm a princess. He's a prince. Let's do this. And that's what the Hapes cluster's thinking. They're thinking, yeah, since you're a princess, you're royalty still. Royalty can marry royalty, and this can be a good deal. And now you will run our armada. You will control the Hapes cluster. They will be yours to command. And she's thinking, man, this is good for the New Republic, and it's kind of good for me too, so why not? It makes a lot of sense. But oh no, Han Solo is not going to have that baby. Han Solo wins, he's gambling and he wins a planet. Yes, he won a planet in a bet. And so when he wins that big stakes poker tournament, he captures Leia, kidnaps her to try to woo her to this planet that he bought her. The planet is not what he bargained for. Dothamir, which is a great planet, which is very heavy in the expanded universe. It was used a lot, obviously. Even in the Clone Wars, they use this. He's the one that came up with the Dothamir witches, which was it was a different sect of Jedi using women. It was really a great idea. They rode Rancors. How cool is that? When I heard that, I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. That's a cool idea. You're riding a Rancor, and we find out that the Rancor in Return of the Jedi was basically a baby Rancor. That wasn't even a full-grown one. Full-grown ones are even bigger. You're like, oh, wow, this is so awesome. I know a lot of people don't really like Courtship of Princess Leia, and I was kind of confused by that because I'm like, man, this is a really, really good novel. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of good stuff in it. One of my favorite things was 3PO's song. Yes, C-3PO was trying to help Han Solo and making a song that would woo the princess. And when he plays like, Han Solo, he's the man. It's really funny. I don't know the lyrics to it, but I remember laughing. Well, the song eventually gets in Leia's head and she can't stop humming it at night. She's humming it in her sleep. It's funny. There's a lot of funny moments in this. On top of that, I actually got to talk to Dave Wolverton. Dave Wolverton told me that not only did George Lucas read the book, George Lucas read this novel. He actually loved the novel. He wrote a letter to Dave Wolverton, who also goes by Dave Farland, by the way, and said, wow, this is great. Now, Dave Wolverton told me that letter was one of his prized possessions. And a few years later, true story, someone broke into his house. I believe they took his computer and a few other things, which the diskettes had all the stuff saved on it. Thank goodness for zip drive back then. But they took his computer and they took the letter from George Lucas. And he's like, keep the computer, just give me the letter back. Because George had penned a letter. So this is proof once again that George was reading the books. Actually, at the very beginning, he was reading all the books. And he wrote, Dave Wolverton said, yeah, great novel. Now, another thing Dave Wolverton told me, and by the way, if you ever get a chance to talk to Dave Wolverton, you totally should do it. He is a fantastic person to talk with. I've always enjoyed my conversations with Mr. Farland. But Dave Wolverton told me that one of the things that he had written in Courtship of Princess Leia that got scratched out by the story group was he wanted to have a scene where Chewie rips a guy's arms out of his sockets. You know, because that's the joke in A New Hope. Yeah, but you know, a Wookiee will rip your arms out of your sockets if he loses, or something like that. What Han tells 3PO, which is really funny. And that line made Dave Wolverton always laugh. He went, you know what? I want to show him ripping someone's arms out of their sockets. And so he wrote that in there. And they wrote back and said, you can't do that. Cross that out. And then he kind of made a joke. He said, but now look at the New Jedi Order. That's even more dark than what I wanted to do. And so he jokes about how Bantam really wanted to make it a little less violent and a little more kid-friendly, which is really odd when you think about it. These are adult novels, and they're like, ooh, that's way too violent. Where Del Rey is like, yeah, kill them all. And he kind of jokes that, you know, he wish he would have written later on, because then he would have gotten away with a lot of that stuff. But overall, I absolutely adore Courtship of Princess Leia. I think it's a great book. Not in my top 10, but it would probably be in my top 20. That's how much I enjoyed it, the novel. I really think it makes a lot of sense. It's a love story with a lot of action and a lot of awesome ideas. This book alone was a huge impact in the expanded universe, if you think about it. Now, don't worry. A soldier, he's okay. He marries Tenel Dejo, or I don't know how to pronounce her name. But anyway, she's one of the Dothamir witches that we find in the novel. And so much to his mother's or grandmother's, oh, she doesn't like him. She's not royalty. And that story would be hugely impactful in later chapters of the expanded universe. So this book that he made, and this is the only big novel that Dave Wolverton wrote either. He wrote a bunch of children's novels, but he never wrote another big novel again, and that's a shame because he did a phenomenal job. I really wish Del Rey had brought him back to help write some of the other books too, because I think he was just awesome. Honestly, one of my favorite authors as well. All right, folks, I'm just rambling on about what I love about Dave Wolverton. I could go on for another 15 minutes, but I'm going to stop right there. See you next time with another video.